Nexxlegacy.
My man, let's get it started. This is Charles. I am Brandon Madison of Nexxlegacy Radio, and I have this gentleman here who has a plethora of things going on right now and his continuing illustrious career. And I just feel like this man is for the people. I mean, this man is an incredible athlete. This man has accomplished a lot thus far and still continuing to push this level. You can follow this man all over social media. Hit up Acie Earl, Acie Earl. You can definitely go to venomsportstraining.com. And Mr. Earl, it's a pleasure to have you on Nexxlegacy. What's up, my guy?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Great to be here.
Man, I want to start off top, man, by just telling you, man, I appreciate all the things that you are continuing to do, because I'm just going to talk about just, how I feel when I've, not just had this opportunity to have dialogue with you, but just going through your resume, just taking a look at some of the stuff that you're active in. And we need more opportunity for people to talk about all the positive things that they are doing to pay it forward, give back to people, and help inspire people. We need a lot of that in this day and age all across the world. I see that you were doing it. I want to put you on this pedestal, sir, and tell you thank you for continuing to leave legacies and inspire people to push it forward, man. We don't get that many props up top for that, so I got to tell you that to start off.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you much.
Man, so how are things going, man? Tell me a little bit about what everything that you have going on right now, and if there's any way that we can be able to do something moving forward when it comes to that. But as you talk about that, I want you to talk about the 13 Rules single that you have out right now, and you being an ambassador for 13 Rules. Talk to us and the listeners about that, man.
Yeah, so we were in Toronto in August for our first ever Toronto Raptor OG reunion. Most of the founding members of the Toronto Raptor. I'm one of the first Toronto Raptors ever to be drafted in the expansion draft back in 1995.
Yeah.
We did a reunion this year. There was one scheduled during COVID, but it got canceled. So it was about 4 or 5 of us that were up there at the time. Me, Tracy Murray, Jimmy King, Marcus Camby. So we were put together with a couple of the Toronto dancers at the time. We actually had a dance team. We were the first NBA team to have a dance team.
Wow.
So they were cheerleaders and dancers. And there were 2 dancers who were actually aspiring singers, and one is Dinaj. She actually travels around the world to this day. Mm-hmm. So she's the background singer on the song. So we were there doing a bunch of interviews. We had hosted some parties and things, and we were asked to come over and do a background on a song. Like, we didn't really know kind of what we were doing. We just had a bunch of things we had to do. They said, hey, come over for 30 minutes. So we were just in the studio kind of vibing. The music was playing. We were hanging out, just having a good time. They were filming video, and we hadn't seen each other in 20, 30 years. And so, we just made a fun 2 or 3 hours out of it, And so, we're featured on the chorus or the hook. And I just kind of started ad-libbing it and just kind of, having fun with it. And, the mics were on. And, it was just kind of like a studio. You put a bunch of people in the studio, you're going to get good things most of the time. So,
no doubt.
We were just being creative, and I was just adding some ad-libs and some hooks and just kind of freestyling with it and doing a lot of different ways. And the producer liked it, and the writer liked it, which was Dave Strickland, and that's how it kind of took its own formation. And the song has a lot of historical significance as it It depicts James Naismith, and his 13 rules of success and 13 rules of basketball and things of that nature. And, Toronto plays a role because it was one of the first sites and venues of one of the first NBA games in Canada. I think it played an NBA team, I believe, from New York. So it has a whole lot of history, a whole lot of different things that for historians of basketball.
So let me, before I touch on that, let me touch on this because I'm listening to you and I'm hearing about this 13 Rules movement and the single, everything like that. So you've been a low key music guy, though. Like you said, you get yourself in the booth, you never know what comes out. But I mean, you've always had some passion when it comes to music, right?
Yes, I mean, I was a first generation hip hopper. Like I was fortunate to grow up right when rap was coming. So I tell stories that I've heard, Curtis Blow, Basketball, The Breaks in a park on a jam box. You know what I mean? Like I've heard a lot of music in the street, like people breakdancing and like I grew up in that era, and that was kind of the first thing I wanted to do. Like I played basketball, but I wasn't great at it.
Right.
And the culture was hip hop. Rap, that was the culture. Like everybody wanted to break dance, in the street and do graffiti and pop lock and, put on a radio. Like that was the culture at the time, and so, even into my early NBA days, I had a record label for a little bit, and I tried, everybody had a record label in those days.
Yeah.
So it was just that was the first thing. Like we didn't know, like what you said earlier, kind of like giving back and things of that nature. Like we didn't know, hey, you can have a franchise, or you can have a car wash, or you can, you know what I mean? So
right.
I think things are a little bit different now because of the like LeBron and Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and different Michael Jordan, different things. We always thought okay, you're going to grow up. If you have any money, you can maybe start a record label. Like that was the only thing that was kind of put in front of us. So looking back on it, I mean, obviously I love the culture and love, being in the industry per se, but it was of course I could have done a million more things with the money that probably would have been more lucrative, but, it was fun to have a record label.
Yeah. And Acie, check it out. You threw back something that, I grew up in as well. Just the birth of hip hop, the culture of it, the passion we get from music and creativity and everything that matters to me when it comes to rolling back memories of when I first heard Grandmaster Flash, and you mentioned Curtis Blow, when I first heard Run DMC, and I'm going backwards to, that era because that's where I pretty much just came of age with why I'm doing what I'm doing now in radio, right? So a lot of what was paved that way brought us to this section right here. So to hear you talk about it is excellent. And this is why I'm doing radio, man, because of that Mecca and where it began. You know what I mean? So it means a lot, man. Music culture.
Yeah, not to fast forward too much, but as I was writing my book, my 135 of the most influential hip hop and rap songs of all time, is I started talking to some of the young, as I talked to all my people, my best friend Hans, who, we grew up together, we were college roommates, and some of the other people. So as I started talking to the younger generation that are about 30-ish, 40-ish, you had to paint the picture how did we listen to rap and how did they listen to rap? And as I said, hey, how we listened to it was you tuned into a pirate radio station at night, or you put on a tape recorder and recorded it, or you gave people tapes when they traveled. I used to have one of my best friends who was from D.C. They'd go back to D.C. for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you give them a cassette tape.
Yeah.
And he'd come back with a whole bunch of music, and we just sit and play it in the room. to what we heard, and then we would chop it up on like dual cassette recording devices, you know, and kind of make our own tape. Like that's one way you got it, or you just went out to the park, right? You went out to the park and people played it on the jam boxes, or you went out and you went to like a bowling alley, or you went to the skating rink and you heard the Cars, whatever the Cars were playing, right? The cassette tape.
Yeah.
And that's how you got the music. Now for me with basketball, what I loved about playing youth basketball is when I went to basketball camps, you know, you went to these exposure camps with 400 or 500 kids. And when you spent the night overnight in the dorm, everybody had a jam box and you just walked the hallway. And you would hear, like, I'd never forget, I heard UTFO for the first time. Like, and I was like going to take a shower and I heard like the Educator rapper, and I was like, that's the Educator rapper from K, you know, from Roxanne. And I'm like, what is this? They go, oh yeah, this is their new album. And you just be in the doorway of dudes you don't even know, and dudes will say, oh, come on in, man. And they fast forward, hey, you heard this? You heard this? You know, I never forget, I was at another place in L.A., and, you know, L.A. was weird for me, you know, with rap, right? It was kind of off the, you know. So you had like the Toddy Todd, and you had the Eazy-E first, and NWA and Ice-T, and you had like just weird kind of different groups that really weren't famous. And so I remember I heard Lemon and Lime from Chris Mills. Like, and then I heard Battle Ram, and I heard like all these weird like LA groups, you know what I mean? And that was all from like the LA scene, you know. They were so LA, you know, like square dance rap. And I was like, what is this? You know? So like basketball was really intertwined. Like, you know, I remember like I used to, like Sean Kemp, he was a big music guy. And Mahmoud Abdul, before he was Chris Jackson, he was a big music guy. And you go to these camps and you would know, like, to go to these dudes' rooms and you would hear like stuff you'd never heard before. And I remember I used to make sure I had my jam box, like with my batteries and cassettes, because I would just be dubbing people's stuff. Like, let me dub that. And you know, you dub it, and then you pass the tape back in the morning, right? Hey, where's my tape at?
You know it.
Right. And that was, and you couldn't wait to get back, right? You could not wait to get back, because when you got back, people would come to you, Ace, man, what'd you get? I was like, oh man, this is wait till I get, you know. and you know, so basketball was just as fun for me for that, because I came back with music I never had. I mean, people never had. You know, and that was a big thing. That's just the way. That's how we got music. That's how we changed rap music, and that's how. I never forget. I heard What People Do for Money, like in Birmingham, Alabama. Like we were going on a family trip to Disney World. And we had my dad had an aunt, my grandmother's sister, in Birmingham, Alabama. And so they were, you know, the family was chopping it up, and they said, oh, boy, go down the street. You know, you guys can walk to the store. Here's $1. And I never forget, we walked to the street, and somebody had on the street corner, what people do for money? And I was just like, what is this? And I was like, I gotta get this. So like I ran back in the house. I was like, Dad, I need 99 cents for a cassette tape. And we went to the store. We went to like Walgreens and got like a 3-pack of 99-cent tapes, and we just gave it to this dude. You got it. That's it. And I said, man, you got to dub this for me. You got to dub. I said, dub whatever you can, you know. And I begged my mom and dad, like, can we spend the night, please? Can we spend the night? You know. And like that's how we grew up. Like that's how we exchanged music. That's how music exchange. You know, now the kids just go on YouTube or Spotify or whatever they do. You know, it's different streaming platforms and stuff now. But we did that, and then we went to record stores, and the record store dude was like your uncle, right? Like that dude knew more about music than like anybody. So like back then, like the music came out on every Tuesday, right? New Music Tuesday, right? And you went there with your $10 and you were like, hey, what's coming out? And you're like, hey, it's a new Houdini. You got new Houdini, you got new Fat Boys, got new LL, you got Ice-T over here, you got you got Donald D, you got Cool G Rap, you got New Biz, you got New Slick Rick, you got and sometimes they would play it in the store, right? When you come there, they play it in the store, and that's how you got it as well. You went to the record store all the time, and me and Hans, my buddy Hans was like that. He was a buyer dude, so he worked a job at a bookstore, and he worked for hip hop and rap music. So every Tuesday he'd come home, and we were roommates. And so, like me, I was a dubbing guy. Like I got cool with you, and you had music, I had music, we shared music. But Hans was a buyer, so Hans would buy and come home every Tuesday with something. Like he come home with Nice and Smooth and Diamond D and Fat Joe and all this stuff from the East Coast, Health and Skelter and Boot Camp Click. And I'm like, man, who are these cats? And that's how, And so like telling these cats how we used to do it is very unique, right?
Ace, in the book, 135 of the most influential hip hop and rap songs of all time. As I'm listening to you talk about these stories and these memories you have, it takes me back as well to how much music influenced my life, as we talked about earlier as well, and what we're doing in our profession. And, before I dive into the music part of it, being an OG and original Raptor, watching them win a championship in 19 and things like that, you guys paved the way for the way basketball and music per se have moved and shaped that Canadian area, that Toronto vibe, and how that migrated into it. And you mentioned, one of the influential, moments as far as playing New York and things like that too. So credit where credit's due as far as you and the other OG Raptors as well. But also, Ace, the music that you talked about the music and the memories and how much of an effort we need to go. I remember Ace waiting at Tower Records to go buy a tape when that tape was the first whatever tape. You know what I mean? I think about LL and I Need a Beat and, everything else when it came to just like wanting to go get music because music was so much a part of life. Do you remember, not just remember the journey that we had to take? If you didn't drive Ace, we had to go catch the bus. We had to go wait in line to Tower Records open, and we had to get it. Once we got home, it was a damn party, and we celebrated like it was ours. You know what I mean? Like, now it's easy for everybody to get. So do you think that music, like how we consume music, that we take it for granted in this day and age in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm still a CD buyer, and all my guys like laugh at me and joke. Like I need to buy the CD, open it up, look at the panels, look at all the pictures, read the credits. Yeah, like you don't know how many wrecks in my car that I've almost gotten a wreck in my car, opening up the CD and looking at and reading and I keep when I buy it, I do probably 3 times a year. I buy 5 or 6 CDs off of Amazon, right? I just go get stuff I haven't got or I lost or I crack more CDs in my car because I throw stuff. And I crack the CD and I'm like, dang, I cracked that CD. I need to order it. Right. So I'll go to Amazon and I'll buy it, cheaply used or slightly used. But I'm still a CD guy. Like, I need to feel it. I need to open it, feel it, read it, look at the pictures, notice something that the normal person won't notice, right? Right. And I have that. And I keep the CD. I used to have a whole box of CD cases with all the cases without the CD in it. Mm-hmm. And people would come over and they'd be like, "Oh, you got that?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "Look at those pictures. Look, you know what I mean?" So, yeah, I remember. You talk about Tower Records. I bought the original Big Pun.
Okay.
In France, the one where the cover, they banned the cover because he had the something with the U.S. flag and the Cuban flag.
Yeah. I remember the conversation or the talk about that. Yes, I remember that.
So I bought the overseas version. They didn't ban it, so I bought that version in France, in Paris, at I believe either Tower Records or Virgin Records.
Mm-hmm.
So in France, I would every Friday after practice, like we would have shoot around because we play on Saturday, so we'd have a light day shoot around, and every Friday I'd go into Virgin Records and buy a CD when I was in France.
Wow.
So I bought GP Wu over there, the GP Wu CD, and I bought Sons of Man because they did a song with a French group over there. It took me like 2 months to figure it out, but I played in Paris and all these people were talking about, Wu-Tang, I am. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I go to these these hip hop clubs, and you'd hear this Wu-Tang song, right? With this group called I Am, and they were speaking French. And I'm like, you know, I'm a Wu-Tang fanatic. I'm like, no, there is no song with Wu-Tang with no French group. I got every CD that Wu-Tang has. And it turned out it was Sons of Man who did it. So it was like Dreddy Kruger and Royal Fam. They were the ones who did it. So apparently Wu-Tang came over on the Triumph tour, right?
Yeah.
And they stayed RZA stayed like an extra week, and he had all these groups that he was putting out, like from France. And so he produced this song with Sons of Man and this group called I Am, and they actually made the book. So I put them in the book because it was the first time a American hip hop rap group did a song with the overseas group, and the overseas group actually rapped in their native language.
Come on, man, that's history right there. And Ace, you mentioned Paris and how the culture has morphed into there. A lot of influenced hip hop culture that migrated to overseas has ran rampant. You hear Germany, you hear all kind of Australia.
I mean, like when I played overseas, like there was a hip hop club in every city. Like you go to Munich, you go to London, you go to France, you go to Switzerland, you go to, I mean, you're like, hey, where's the hip hop club? And I'm telling you, man, it would be banging. And they would go West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, East Coast. And it would be banging, man. It would be till 4 a.m. And they would start with the old school, and they went new school, and they had everything, man. And I mean, I remember I was in Turkey, and I heard the Lil Wayne remix with Rakim. I can't remember what the song was. But yeah, that's the first time I ever heard that they was in. And I asked all my boys, I'm like, man, what's the song that Lil Wayne's got with Rakim? And they were like, he doesn't have one. I'm like, yeah, they do.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean, that was cool being overseas, and because the hip hop culture, you know, basically erupted over there, you know, and the stuff I used to get, like all the Adidas stuff that you get over there. Like I remember I did a basketball tour with Adidas when I was with Adidas, and I was in the NBA, and we went to Germany. And they brought Run DMC in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm staying at the same hotel. Now, just think about this, right? I grew up on Run DMC. That's my first favorite rap group is Run DMC. Like, I know like 4 or 5 Run DMC songs end to end.
That's right.
I'm in the hotel, and I see 2 guys come in the lobby because, you know, like we go do our basketball stuff, and then the lobby, they give us like free beer and cheese and snacks before dinner. I'm in the lobby, and I see two guys come in with black pants, leather jackets, Stetson hats. And I'm like, that's Jam Master Jay.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's Ronnie Ray. That's Ronnie Ray. Ronnie Ray was their dude who was on tour with them. He was like their security / whatever,
Right.
And I did. And I go, Jay? And he go, yeah, what's up, big fella? And I go, Ronnie Ray? He goes, oh, you know me? And I'm like, yeah, man. I go, what are you guys doing here? You guys, sometimes you always be traveling overseas, and there could be a show, right, in town.
Yeah.
So I'm like, y'all got a show tonight? He's like, no, man, we're here with Adidas doing that street ball thing. He's like, oh, are you the NBA player? I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, the whole Run DMC is here? And they're like, yeah, and Russell too. So my Adidas rep sends me a message like, yeah, like you got dinner at 7 p.m. with Run DMC. So me and my wife at the time, we go down, so the dinner's at 7. I'm there like 6:30, right? I'm there like
hell yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I'm there like 6:30, like sitting like a little kid, right? I'm sitting like a little kid, like, sure enough, in comes Ronnie Ray, in comes Jay, then Run comes, DMC comes down, Russell comes down.
Wow.
I'm sitting there having dinner, talking to Run DMC.
Wow.
So we have dinner, and then we go to a nightclub, and Jam Master Jay and DMC kind of scratch a little bit. We go to a nightclub. We go to a club. And the next day, they say, oh, yeah, then you and Run DMC are going to play 3-on-3 versus the winner of this 3-on-3 tournament. So I play a 3-on-3 with Run, Russell, DMC. We're playing 3-on-3. And it's funny, like Run and DMC, like, they're good at basketball. Like, people, they used to be on, that one show, Run's House. Like, they're good. Mm-hmm. And so, like, we're playing, and you can see, like, Run and DMC trying to run little plays, and they're yelling at each other, and Russell's yelling at each other. I'm just sitting there, like, in awe. Like, here I am, They're like, take it, big fella. You got it. Hey, double it down to Ace. Double it down to Earl, Big Earl. So I'm like, after that day, I was just like, okay, if I got to leave the world today, then just God take me. Hey. I understand.
Amen to that. Acie Earl's my guest on Nexxlegacy
I just
Radio.
hung out and ate dinner with Run DMC. And
come on, Ace. That is a dream on a dream on a dream, man. Like, to hear it again, like I said, and I'm a hip-hop guy, and they, like you, were the first ones. I remember turning on, Top 40 videos, and I would get the, the Walk This Way and the King of Rock and all those videos that we stayed up late night to watch, man. Like,
man, listen, don't get me started. I remember when the King of Rock album came, or whatever that one album came out, I dubbed it from one of my teammates in another city, because he was a rich white boy. He had money, so his family had the album, and I had to wait, like, get my allowance to get it, and so he dubbed it for me, and I was just like, here I go. This is like 15 years, right? That I'm dubbing your album, and 15 years later, I'm sitting with you at dinner. Like, you could never. Like, you can't write that in any story, right?
Nah, man, that's a gift right there, man. You know it. That is a straight gift. Hey, Ace, let me ask you this. Here we are. We celebrated 50 years of hip hop, right? And and I definitely encourage everybody. 135 of the most influential hip hop and rap songs of all time. Make sure you grab that book. That is important. And I love the nostalgia of your passion for penning this and putting this out. But let me talk to you about 50 years of hip hop. Here we are right now, 2023. I always hear a lot of things about it. It's not how it used to be. There's a disconnect in terms of the creativity of it. What are your thoughts on it? And what do you expect hip hop to be 50 years into the future?
Well, I mean, it's like with anything. You know, I played the game. I coached the game. Like, the game is played differently. Like, every sport is played differently, right? You know, I'm an avid football fan. I've seen football go from, you know, to running, to ground and pound, to the West Coast offense, to the Wildcat, to the 3 tight end set, to, you know, to different things. Like in basketball, it used to be you played in the post first, right? You played inside out, right? Like I played in the greatest center era of all time, right? I played, you know, with and against Patrick Ewing, Akeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, Shaq, Rick Smith, Ronnie Cycli, you know, Kevin Duckworth, Luke Longley, like the best center era ever, and you played inside out, you know.
Right.
Now you don't play inside out. Your center does not give you 20 points a game, right? I can't think of a center maybe who averages 20-something points a game. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to think that, right?
No doubt, outside in now. It's definitely not
exactly.
that.
And now the centers shoot 3-point, you know, like you know, exactly. Big Cat from Minnesota, you shoot threes now. Like, you know, the Lopez brothers shoot threes now. So, So, you know, rap and hip-hop, and I think music has changed to that point. I like when you listen to it that you can hear the influence in others. So, like, I love to listen to Megan Thee Stallion because she sounds like Little Kim to me, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you could tell in her voice, and Cardi B, you could tell in her voice that was an influence. Right, and you don't have Little Kim and Foxy Brown, you probably don't have Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B, right?
Amen. Amen.
You know, I like Drake. You know, you can hear a lot of influence in Drake, and I remember when we were in Toronto, we used to hear about this young kid from Scarborough or Mississauga that was a rapper. And I'm sure I've had his underground tape because I had tons of Toronto underground tapes, right, all the time. People would give me stuff all the time. Oh, listen to this. You got a record label, listen to this. And I had a bunch of that stuff. And you could hear the New York and like Boot Camp Click and, you know, Helter Skelter and Buckshot Shorty. You could hear that influence in them because they were West Indian too, right? They were West Indian, and a lot of Toronto rappers have that West Indian influence. So, like, I'd like to listen to people to see the influence that they have, and where they, you know what I mean? So, I like to listen to a lot of the Chicago rappers, you know, because I'm from Illinois and from the Midwest, and so, like, I was into, like, I listened to a little bit of King Von and the other guy. You know, it's unfortunate all those guys who got shot over Toronto, I mean, in Chicago. But you could hear the influence of Kanye West and Twista in their music, right? And that's why it's so important for people to just keep coming out because you don't know who you influence, right? And, you know, and big shout out to Kanye because I think Kanye legitimized, you know, Chicago, Illinois rap. If it wasn't for Kanye, none of those cats could come out and have a legitimate chance of getting a record deal. You know, none of those cats. And even Common, I mean, you know, Common and Kanye, you know, they were like pioneers. You know, Common was pioneer. Common had to go to New York to do a lot of his music, right?
Yep.
And Twista, like, you know, like Twista was a sideshow for a lot of years. You know, he was just a guy who rapped fast. He got in the Guinness Book of World Records. Nobody took him serious, right? Until you know, Common got a little bit more known and Kanye got a little bit known. And so, like I said, I like to listen to a lot of new rappers to hear the influence, you know. And I say, who is that? Like, I always ask people, who is that? And they're like, this such a, like, oh, he sounds like Outkast. Oh, he sounds like such and such. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. You know, so that's my thing. I like to listen to the new cats to hear the influence of others.
Yeah. And Ace, you know that when I hear you talk about influence and you mention these artists and these people who, you know, turned out to be not just pioneers, a lot of these people, Ace, had to hustle, though. Like, Kanye had his first album, like, you know, people didn't talk about, oh, I don't think this is going to work. Like, but he denied that kind of vibe, and he made sure once it got out, it was evolutionary. It was something that, you know, people gravitated to, because I feel like the work you put in, you gotta make sure that you just stay relentless in who you are and never let it switch up, which is to my point right here when it comes to the culture of hip hop as well. You know how we talked about the birth of and how Run DMC made us feel and everything else. They did it their way. They had influence, but they did it their way as well. And I think,
you know,
we need creativity. We need creativity to keep it moving into the next 50 years, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Drake is a perfect example of that. Like, his style is his own style. I think Outkast and Ludacris were the same way, and David Banner. Like, those guys had their own style, and they rolled with it, right? Whether it was people liked it or not. Like, people didn't like Ludacris at first, remember? People didn't like David Banner at first.
That's
exactly right. And then, you know, and going back to Kanye, it's funny, and I put this in the book, and I didn't realize it that until I start talking about it, is, you know, if Kanye doesn't leave, like, think about the monumental decision. You know, he talks about that on the first album when, you know, the Hard Knock Life tour comes to Chicago. He opens up for Jay-Z. Dame and them tell him, hey, when we get back to New York, you know, we'll call you, right?
Right.
And he tells his mom, we're not waiting for that. Let's not pay rent. Let's get in the U-Haul and beat them to the studio.
That's it.
And they get in the U-Haul and they leave Chicago to go to New York. And they beat them home. They meet them at the studio, and Dame signs them, right? Okay. That changed drastically the whole realm of Chicago rap, drastically now, and production, right?
Yep.
Now, who else saw this story? Bone Thugs and Harmony.
That's right.
Right? Or I forget what. Well, no, actually, Kanye saw it before, but Bone Thugs and Harmony did the same thing when Eazy-E came. Eazy-E comes to Ohio with NWA.
Yep.
And they steal the equipment. And then they say, you know what? We want to open up for you so bad. We'll give you the equipment back if you.
That's right. I remember.
if you let us open. So So think about this. Now think about this. Eazy-E has to tell Ice Cube and Ren and Dre, should we let these dudes rap, or should we just kill them now?
Yeah.
Eazy-E, the businessman, says, you know what? We'll let them rap. They rap. In that whole style with the harmonizing style that we hear today is all due to them, Bone Thugs and Harmony. They say the same thing. Eazy says, "Oh man, when we get back home, we'll call you." They say, "No, we're going to get on a bus." They get on a bus on a Greyhound and meet them at the studio. Yeah. And that was Eazy-E's last thing he ever did on his deathbed. Is he signed? You know, he got Jerry Heller to sign them, right? And if they don't believe in themselves with no money, getting on a Greyhound bus, the whole Midwest sound of that harmonizing, rapping fast, rapping slow, can't really understand what you're saying, but it sounds so good. Like, you know, we never get that, right?
Nah.
And it's unique that only two to this day that I know of, only two groups have ever done that. Say, you know what? We're not waiting for the call. We're going to meet you. And both of them were Midwest groups, right? Both of them were groups that from Midwest, Kanye and Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. So, like what you said, just believing in yourself, and that drastically have changed rap and hip hop music for the rest of time. You know, those two monumental feats will never be created again, in my opinion.
I agree. Amen to that. Acie Earl is my guest on Nexxlegacy Radio, and to me, that's how legacies are built. It's a lot of rich reward. It's a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot of stuff that you put in. And to be able to do something, because you've done it throughout your career, not just in sports, but even now in what you're doing and how you're paving the way for other people to be able to grab onto just being able to pay it. Like, and I'm going to talk about you for a second because, you know, I feel like I could talk to you for a long-ass time, but I'm a pivot to you. Do you feel like when it's all said and done, like, because I feel like you've done enough, and you and I, this is the first time we've ever had dialogue, and I've admired you, you know, and you paved the way for a lot of motivational stuff. Do you feel like that you know what, I've done pretty good paying it forward based on my efforts to be able to help others?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I look back at it like I was getting recruited back in college, high school to go to college, and I made a monumental decision that didn't make a lot of sense. You know, I went to University of Iowa, and they had 5 guys on the roster that were over 6'8" that had not played the year before. And so a lot of the colleges were like, why go there when you could come here and play right away? And I was like, well, I believe in myself. I believe that I can beat those guys out. And I ended up doing it. It took me 2 years to do it, but I did it.
Right.
So, I mean, that, and like when Toronto came, when we went to the expansion draft, there's a lot of guys, you know, we talked about that. There's a lot of, one of my former Iowa teammates, B.J. Armstrong, was in that expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
He told Isaiah he didn't want to go. And so here I am, like, man, I'm excited to play with BJ. And he told Isaiah, I'm not interested in going to an expansion franchise. I want to go win championships. I'm used to winning championships. And so, like, a lot of guys, did not go. There's about 5 or 6 guys. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm
sorry to cut you off, Ace. Was that before or after BJ became a Warrior? Because I know somewhere in between
he was a Warrior. He was a Warrior. So he got traded. And I may be off on a couple of things. He got traded from the Bulls to the Warriors.
There you go.
Then the Warriors put him on, did not protect him in the expansion draft.
That's right.
So he got selected by Toronto with Isaiah, and then he told Isaiah he didn't want to play there. And then, or I believe that, and then what happened is we actually traded BJ. No, he was with Charlotte. He's with Charlotte. That's what happened. He's with Charlotte. Charlotte didn't protect him. Yeah. Isaiah picked him up, and then he traded BJ to Golden State for Carlos Rogers.
That's it.
For Carlos Rogers and Victor Alexander.
That is correct.
So then we got Carlos and Victor. And then Victor, who I'd known he played at Iowa State, and I know Victor, very, not close friend, but I knew Victor, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna play with Victor. And Victor was like, I'm not playing here. Victor was like, I'm not playing here either. Yeah. Trade me. So it was like a lot of guys that didn't want to, just as much as guys wanted to be there, because you had to kind of repair. Like I was one of those guys that had to kind of repair my playing career from, I had one good year in Boston, the second year, not so much. And so a lot of us were trying to repair our playing image and trying to repair our career, resurrect our career. But there was a lot of guys who were like, you know what, I don't want to be here. Right. So that was a daunting moment. And then, going overseas, after I, got cut from Milwaukee, I could have either, retired, stayed home, did something else, or I was like, you know what? I still got some basketball in me. So I'm going to go play overseas. And unfortunately, I did. I played 8 years and won 3 championships and 3 MVPs in 8 years overseas. So
that's it. Come on. That alone has, resiliency, effort, and you just not giving up on you when it's all said and done, because you still had and still have enough to be able to give and pay it forward. And I feel like when you're a career guy, not just in the NBA, but now as an author, and doing everything that you can as far as all the different things you have going on. Do you realize, man? And I'm realizing that, especially as a business owner too, like, it's not even about you anymore. It's about the stuff that you need to do to just give it back. Like, I know I've been saying this all day with you, but paying it forward and giving it back, it's no longer about you, Ace. It's really about, like, the other people and the impact that you have in their lives, right?
Yeah. So, after I played, obviously my kids were starting to get older, and I started coaching my kids. And so I coached AAU for 12 years. And then I did high school. And it's funny, like, when I do camps and clinics, the guys who I hire, I try to hire my former players, like kids who played for me. So it's funny, like, just as much as kids, the parents have paid for AAU and stuff. And I tell the parents, I'm like, hey, now they can make a little of the money back that you guys paid. So, so yeah, it's funny that I used to train a kid. I never forget, one of my best kids I ever trained and coached, Harley, and he was a smaller kid, and I think I started training him maybe in 4th grade or 5th grade, but I never forget his mom used to bring him in a car seat, right?
Wow!
I used to see this kid in a car seat, and this kid has worked like probably 10 of my camps so far, right? So then he drives, and I just, like, when you see him in the parking lot getting out of his own car, and I'm just like, wow.
Crazy, huh? That's crazy.
16 years ago, 15 years ago, his mom used to bring him in a car seat, and now the kid, So I love giving back and hiring ex-players, and I love seeing my ex-players, like, out and about and talking to the parents, and I get so many calls and texts throughout the year of kids that are on different teams and college, and, like, I have a bunch of kids in college now, about a couple girls that are seniors that played for me, and I get these random texts on a Sunday, like, hey, turn on Fox, hey, turn on Big Ten Network, turn on ESPN3, such and such is playing. And, so I usually turn on where I could see them play a little series, and parents will thank me and say, oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's fun to have played a role, and to be appreciated, because at the time, I don't think it's like being in the rap music or being in the music movement at the time. Like, you just do it. I tell people all the time, like, I didn't do things to get, praises, or I didn't do things just to be on TV or be in a record book. I just did it. Like, I just played the right way. Like, I just coached the right way. I didn't have this ultimate goal, like, hey, if I do this right, I can have 20 girls that play Division I basketball, or I can have 50 kids that go to, you know what I mean? I just coached. I just played. Like, I didn't play to get in the record book. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just played. Like, oh, okay, I'm the first Raptor to block a shot. I'm the first Raptor to make a free throw. I'm the first Raptor to score double digits in a game. Like, I have, 15, 18 Iowa records. Like, I didn't play to get the records. I just played. I just coached, and it's fun to get, to kind of come back years later and get, like, well, thank you for doing that. Wow, you did this. And I'm like, wow, I guess I did.
Man, no doubt. And an impact you have, not just in the people that you are working with in your circle, but, the folks outside of your circle, like myself and other people in different states and countries and whatnot, is really appreciative. You can follow him, man, Acie Earl, Instagram, Phenom_Iowa. You can hit up the website, VenomSportsTraining.com, 13rules_INC. And make sure, in addition to all that, make sure you grab the book, 135 of the most influential hip-hop and rap songs of all time. He'll tell you why in the book. I began reading it, so you're gonna have to double back and come. I'm gonna do my review because I'm so deep into it right now, and it's just like I told you, man.
Give me one group that we could have went either way on, or give me one group you were surprised on, something you've seen, or give me a group, or give me a song.
Even talk to you about how you mentioned UTFO. I could also add on to that, and maybe it's because I have a little bit of rest in peace Kango Kid. I've developed a cool nice little vibe with Doc Ice, educator rapper, rest in peace. But I feel like they don't get enough credit for the impact that they had in the hip hop community as well, in my opinion. But UTFO is always that one group that I feel like, man, they didn't pay attention to them enough. You know what I mean? As far as
speaking of that, and I will tell you, like, that's one of my favorite groups because that's one of the first concerts I've ever saw live. I saw them live with Roxanne in 8th grade, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the Roxanne movement overshadowed them to a point.
I agree with that. I agree.
I also think this. I can't remember what record label they signed with. I don't know. Were they with Sleeping Bag?
Sleeping Bag record or Sleeping Bag records or whatnot. I think you might be right.
But I think if they would have signed with a better record label, I think the history is different on them.
Agreed. And you also got to remember, Ace, you got to remember also that Roxanne began that era of it was a lot of Roxanne wars back in that day too. Like, that morphed into Sparky D, Roxanne Shantae, real Roxanne. What was it? Oh God, Roxanne's father.
Yeah, Roxanne's grandmother, Roxanne's uncle. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I think the movement overshadowed them, right? Where
it took a life of its own, bruh. It took a life of its own.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that and that's why you got to put them in. That's why you got to put them in there because that started like when a song just took on. Like that started the whole. Like, people made a record and never was heard from again. Like
exactly.
Whoever made Roxanne's uncle and Roxanne's grandmother, and I never forget. Like I used to ask, like I said, like man, like my boy from DC, like he went home for Christmas and he came back with Roxanne's uncle and Roxanne's grandmother, and that dude was the cool. Listen, that dude was the coolest dude at school, man. You couldn't tell that dude. You couldn't tell that dude nothing, right? That dude walked in the hallway. Nobody messed with that dude. That dude he came back with Roxanne's uncle and Roxanne's grandmother, man. It was a wrap. It was a wrap, man.
Yeah, I think overall, man, when it comes down to it, it's very interesting how a lot of, the hip hop path as far as, how not just artists, but, songs or specifics that comes in and be like, you can tell a story that can tell another story, that can tell another story, that you can be able to do that for years on end, man. And I think it's important for people to go grab this book, go get it, go continue to read it like I have, and just soak it all in because there's so much history, man, that comes with it. And I need everybody to go grab it. It's available on Amazon, right? People can go get it.
Yeah, thank goodness for Amazon. Yeah, and like I said, I grew up in the Midwest, so like. The only hip hop that I grew up on was like the East Coast popular stuff, right? The Rakim and Biz and stuff. And so my roommate Hans, who's from Vermont, he's big New York guy. Like he's the one who put me on like true hip hop, like Diamond D and Fat Joe and And so I put him on all the Midwest. Like, you know, I was Midwest. So I was Common, Twista. I was Ghetto Boys, you know, Luke Skywalker, Home Team, you know, Ice-T, NWA, Rodney O and Joe Cooley. Like, so like we were just like a pair, right? Because between both of us, like nobody had our music collection on campus. Like we were rival. People would come over to our house on Tuesday nights and just dub all day and night, right? like we were like a tag team of music, like, you know what I mean? And Hans put me on to a lot of stuff. And then he put me on the real, like the Helter Skelter and Gang Star, and like he put me on Pete Rock and CL Smooth. You know what I mean? Like I knew Heavy D. I mean, I had Heavy D, but he was like, "No, you gotta listen to their cousins, man. Pete Rock and CL Smooth, man." And I was like, "Okay."
Heavy D was amazing. His music is timeless, man. That is, you know, again, I get, you know, when you go off and run these groups and these names, man, I get chills still, because I just remember how I felt when I listened to their music. Their music was a certain energy that does give you, like, man, come on, man, keep it solid, Ace. I don't get chills for everything and everybody.
No, man, listen to this. Not to cut you off. Listen to this. I'm doing a camp, like 2015, and we did the camp, and then the other part of the camp was like it was a tournament, and these teams came in from like New York and New Jersey and you know, DC to play against each other. And there was a team, and I looked at the thing, and the team said some high school from Mount Vernon, New York. And so as the team started warming up, I go like this: "Money earned in Mount Vernon." And the kids looked at me. These are 15, 16-year-old kids. They look at me, right, and they go, "How you know about that?" And I go, "Man, you guys are too young to even know where you got your nickname from." And the coach comes up to me like, "Yeah, man, they don't know. And I was like, wow. "Yeah, man." I start rattling off Heavy D, Pete Rock, CL Smooth, Trouble T-Roy. And the kids are like, "Who are them dudes?" And the coach look at me like this, and I'm like, "Yeah." So even the kids, like, the kids didn't even know where they got their name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like the kids didn't even know that. Like, you know, like they knew their money earned in Mount Vernon, but they don't know why their money earned in Mount Vernon. You know what I mean? So it's like it's funny how that works even to this day, right?
Man, that's the evolution of it all, my brother. Man, that is it, man. Listen, as we wrap, man, I want to not just thank you, you know, and I'm going to continue to keep spreading the word about the book, you know, have people follow all on social media. You know, Ace, man, not only is it a pleasure, I want to come back, because when I'm done with the book, I will definitely want to have a part 2 to this, and we got to dive into it.
For sure, yeah, at any time, man. You want to come back and talk basketball during the playoffs? When the playoffs start, let's talk basketball.
Absolutely. So you're gonna get a lot of social media hits and love in general, but I gotta not just everything that you've done, and you've heard me started to kick it off, but I will say this, man, like, we need more of this. We need more energy like this. We need more opportunity for people to hear, see, feel that it is cool to be able to give props up top for others, but also to be able to just keep that effort and make sure that effort is relentless. One thing I can say about you, and we just met, and one thing that I can say about myself, I will never stop my effort. That will always be, no matter what happens and what I do, that will be relentless to the day I go. And,
yeah, 100%, man. Appreciate the love.
Definitely, sure. Man, definitely. Yep, I'm here, my brother. I'm here. I'll make sure I hit you on social, and I'll make sure I lock you in with my information too, man. But man, thanks for the love, and Nexxlegacy is gonna give that love, that spin, that promo, all that stuff, man, because, you know, you got a home right here with us, bro.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Nexxlegacy.